The meeting of the Kyle Train Depot Board. It is 6:23 on the 2nd of February. 18th of February, excuse me, 2026. Do I have regular meeting minutes approval?
Can you call a roll call?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do that. It doesn't say that. Oh, yes, and roll call. I don't have a, I guess you would call that.
I could do it.
Yes, you should do that.
Davis, Harrell, Spina,
Present.
Gibson,
Present.
Del Frate,
Present.
Herbert.
Okay, now we need to approve the minutes. We have Anthony Davis showing up. So he will be present for the meeting as well. Sorry about that, Anthony. I thought I misread the email. All right. We have Anthony Davis present as well. Do we have the minutes for approval for the minutes? Did everybody read the minutes or get the minutes at all?
Yes.
Yes, you did. Everybody else? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion over there and a second.
Second.
Bob seconds. Any discussion on that? Then we need a vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. The third agenda here is citizens' comment period with the Train Depot Board. The Train Depot Board welcomes comments from citizens. Those who wish to speak are encouraged to sign in before the meeting begins. Speakers may be provided with an opportunity to speak during this time period on any agenda item or any other matter concerning the Train Depot Board business. They must observe the 3-minute time limit. We have no comments at this time. Are there any call-in comments or anything? No. So we pass by that and close the citizens' comment period. Staff reports and presentations. Might we have those, please?
Perfect. Thank you, board members. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for coming in this evening. I know requested on for discussions have been for a while is at our train depot property across the street is really maybe focusing some of the locations that potential political signage can be located on the site. So with that, as we all know, City Hall is often the official polling location. It serves as often or honestly always since I've been here as an early voting location, both for primaries and even in the early voting calendar cycle. And the depot property, as you know, sits immediately adjacent. So there's not a lot of room on the city property to put signs. And not only that, there is electioneering requirements on how close those signs can be to the actual polling locations itself. So they measure off of that, and your property is prime real estate, honestly, for that. And being a high visibility and voter traffic equals prime sign location. And as you know, it happens multiple times per year. So I think with that, there's been some discussions about, really making sure that we have sidewalks and access paths opened, not blocked, and that the city hasn't had in the past, some questions about signs being located in site triangles, like too close to the intersection on kind of both sides of the depot property there, and across, potential damage to some of the landscaping on a site. And then there are some, disputes over best spots. And often I think you guys serve as depot board members as referees, as well as sometimes city staff on that as well. So we were hoping maybe to kind of discuss, where good locations could be, understanding that these are the open space along the railroad tracks is open. There's some visibility for us at our polling location, and then making sure that, we have the driveway access and intersections open. So what this could look like if we designated kind of areas for signage is that we could designate those areas, have it very clear and understandable for everyone, and we can make sure that it's away from the doors, landscaping, kind of site triangles, and then we could even, have an area where we say, political signs must be placed in this area or something else. So I think there's some opportunities for us to really designate both visually as well in written words on what that could be. And then some of the benefits and why we might do this is it's fair to all candidates for that. It protects our depot site and our landscaping that we have. And then we can make sure that we maintain our pedestrian and access paths, and then also potentially reduces disputes and complaints because everyone will understand what the rules are. And then it gives staff and volunteers, really kind of a clear rule and kind of guidelines on what those are. So bringing this before you tonight, we really thought this would be an opportunity to engage with you as the board, hearing the opportunity to hear any of your concerns, what preferences you have, if any, some possible locations on where you would like to limit or designate some of the signage, understanding that, which I've heard from you, which I appreciate, really kind of reasonable restrictions, understanding that this is right across from the polling location. It's been happening for, on my understanding, decades. And now, at City Hall here, pretty much since it's been an early voting location. So just understanding kind of the ramifications of that, but keeping in mind that we don't have to have damage to the property. We can look at designating areas that don't block fire bed or site triangles. And then I know there's been some discussions in the past about the depot sign itself, blocking that as well. So I'm hoping to get some input from you this evening, helping draft something together that we could do, and then presenting it back to you as a potential recommendation that you can forward to council. I know that the Train Depot Board works very closely with the Historical Commission, so if okay with you, maybe this is something that I could present to that board as well, knowing that they are different members, and then if and when, we kind of have rules that we understand and hope to achieve, we could forward it up the chain of command, for City Council for consideration. And then this is something that not only would we work at for city elections when we know those polling, we could work with the polling locations here in Hays County on kind of understanding where the signs are allowed around this polling location here at City Hall. So with that,
Okay.
I'm hoping to get some feedback from you guys.
All right, I have much feedback. Does anybody have less feedback first?
I think I'm fully in agreement with you. I think it's pretty obnoxious. And when I pulled up, I saw all these signs in the flower beds. So I noticed all the signage and not the depot. So I
Right.
think I probably have as much to say as you do.
Yeah, I think Anthony has some thoughts on it too, I know.
Well, I know it's gotten annoying with it being in front of our sign, especially considering that we are open about 4 hours out of a week on Saturdays. And we have in the past had issues of people directly blocking our sign. That's been dealt with a bit more now, but that hasn't stopped it from being, like a better term, but a nuisance.
Yes, I think if you look out there at the moment, you can see we had the city ask people not to block our sign, and that went unheard and unheralded. Not only did they get 3-foot signs and then raise them up off the ground to where they're 5 feet tall, they now have one that's up as high as our sign is, completely blocking it. I think that's ridiculous. I think there ought to be an ordinance that you cannot block a business or one of the functioning museums of town's sign with your sign from the sight line from any corner. I think the setback should be behind the sign, from the curb, behind the sign. At the moment, the signs now go right up almost to the front door of the depot. They go completely around the corner of our billboard sign and go right up to the checkerboard of our walk. And they're getting taller and taller and more obnoxious. and then they do block the corner. So I think if we had an ordinance that said everything had to be behind the sign and free the corner up, I don't know how, I mean, that would help free the corner up. It'd take the signs back 3 or 4 feet from the corner and might provide a better sight line. And then also not in the planter box. We're ready to spend $200 from the city has granted us $200 to replant that planter bed. But then if we replant it and in November, 500 signs go in there, we're gonna be puncturing in irrigation, ruining plants and everything else. And we don't wanna spend the money and then have to re-spend it next year. These people seem to have no sense of shame or community spirit or community pride. They just consider themselves and what they perceive as a excellent place to put a sign that doesn't matter. Studies have proven these signs are very ineffective. They turn into clutter and nobody notices anything because there's just too dang many of them. Even if they were all one person, you wouldn't even know that name by the time you got in the building. You can't see them really from the polling places. The polling booths are pointed away from them. So I don't see even why these people force the issue and can't play nice and at least keep our sign visible and at least allow us the dignity of not becoming a spectacle and preserve the museum and its property. I mean, it's a function. Right now, we have a real concern. They put the signs in the planter bed, and then they start coming up on the walk above the planter bed when we're not here. I've had several conversations with several people, and generally, they're very nice, and once I explain that that's a walkway, it is a right-of-way, you shouldn't be here, you need to be on the sidewalk, they generally comply. But then the next crew comes in to relieve them, and pretty soon they're up on our walkway as well. And
These are human signs?
humans with signs.
Yes.
On the board, on the platform that starts to form and go around the depot. They'll actually go up onto that platform and wave their signs and yell. And I understand, it's shade in the afternoon and stuff like that.
Paulina, can I get you to switch that visual, and then I'll pull my slide over.
So I think it's just gotten to the point where we have to put a limit on how many and what size signs can go in that area. If they have small yard signs that are down in front of our sign, I'm sure there's no problem. But you put a big 3 by 5, 4 feet up in the air, that just ruins everything. So my suggestion would be we strictly prohibit signs
So for
in the planter box.
this would be, this is
Correct.
the planter box, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have no objection with signs in the park behind the depot. Put your
Starting
signs
kind of at the edge of the
at
planter
the
box.
edge of the garden, right, at the edge
Okay.
of the retaining wall, heading that way. I've even suggested that to several people that have put signs in there. Last election, everybody played fairly nicely and took their signs out of there. I do not think that is going to happen this election. There's too much animosity amongst people, and they just think they can do whatever they want.
Do you ever get much signage on this side of the building over here?
No, they
They
hardly
don't,
ever
do they?
do anything over there. It's mostly directly between the depot and Center Street.
Okay.
And then the depot and Front Street.
Yep.
So
And so this is
that's
our
our
sign
marker,
right here.
right. That's our marker, right.
Yes.
And so if we could have no signage in front of that, from the depot edge, sidewalk edge, to the street corner, I think that would
Oh,
solve.
you're talking all the way to here.
Yeah, all the way to there. That's impinging on the sight line
Yeah.
as you get closer to the corner. And that leaves everything behind that, they can knock themselves out. I think that's fair for them, it's fair for us. And it keeps our depot from becoming a political object. So, does anybody else have any recommendations or thoughts or concerns on this and how it lays out?
Question about,
So you would talk about this area being,
Yes, exactly, all the way though to the checkered walkway.
Okay.
Yeah, right
Including-
now they're having signs all the way to that and all the way to that one corner you just hit. And,
So everything
so,
there.
Yeah. If we could have that as a no sign zone, it would certainly make me a lot happier as the Depot Museum
What
chair.
if they were, I'm just talking out
Right,
loud.
sure,
Don't
no.
shoot the messenger.
No.
What if they were the more the 18 by 24 or whatever, kind of what they've stuck in the flower beds?
If they did that in that area, the first area you outlined, not the one between the building and the sign, the checkerboard walk and the sign, I think still needs nothing. But from the sign over, if they just did small signs, not elevated, but the little signs, that would be fine.
Like small signs
I
here.
I could live with that.
Okay. Small signs here.
But I do think the corner needs to be a little bit more free. I think that is impinging on sight lines for people, pedestrians.
Correct. Right up in the corner there.
Right.
You're right. Yep.
But a little bit back from that. But if that area could just have nothing but those smaller signs. But my question is, we've asked them to be nice and not do it, but there's no ramifications. Would this include ramifications? Or is this just gonna be a, well, please don't do it, and then they go and do it anyway, and once one person starts, they all do it? I think we need to have some,
I think that's
some way of
a good
removing
question. I
them,
mean,
or-
it would definitely be more formal than what it's been now, right? So I think at the end of the day, if and when this gets adopted by council, kind of for the properties that the city owns and maintains, we would have these rules and regulations. They could be published on the city website. We could give them to the Hayes County that does the electioneering. Like everyone would have it, right? So I think it would definitely be more of a formal process. I'd have to follow up on. I'm gonna be honest, all code enforcement, I oversee code enforcement, compliance is kind of your first and foremost. So if people are willing to remove and or relocate, in appropriate areas, that's what you're hoping for. But it definitely helps, like with any rules and regulations, if you have rules to point to and kind of diagrams to follow to show that. So right now it is more of a courtesy, that you're willing to reach out to them and kind of shepherd them through appropriate kind of locations without any kind of written rules. So I think we're hoping just to kind of have some reasonable.
Do we know if Union Pacific has signed off on allowing local signs to go on here?
I mean, yes and no. I don't think they care because the city subleases the property, right? I think out of all the things for them to worry about, that's not it because we
So they haven't signed off on anything.
no, but they haven't.
said get them on.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
But
and
this
if I were them, I would
argues
be the
also
same
with like
thing.
an opt-in or an opt-out situation.
I think from my understanding, is the city subleases that property, so they figure the city should.
Subleases. So they don't own it. They own the building.
Correct.
Correct. I mean, we lease the property from the Union Pacific. So I think we as the city have the rights and regulations, and you're right.
So as
we can
long
get-
as Union Pacific doesn't say anything, so then this will fly.
Yes, I would say so. And I can follow
Okay.
up with legal. I mean, this
Now-
is still very preliminary in this discussion, but
See what legal thinks. I'm curious about what they'd say about it. Whether or not Union Pacific may say something.
And does I would like to know, I know the agreement for the depot is, we have basically the footprint of the depot plus out to that little fence in the back, all the way back to the back of the depot. But actually, the city leases the land that is the park where the caboose is. And I believe the depot and the county responsibility is only the building, and that's the part we're running as a museum. And then the city pays for that plot, plus they pay a separate fee for the plot that's behind it that has the caboose. And I believe that's the way it is. From a map I have on my rental agreement from years and years ago, but I don't know if that's still the rental agreement or what's going on.
Yeah, I'd have to double check. I think
And
it
then I
is.
don't know if we actually rent or the city actually has power from the building to the curb. That might be a whole separate thing. That might be. When I asked one time, can we put cement in front of our sign? And just prevent them from putting signs altogether in front by just simply cementing that area. And then that prevents them from putting any signs in at all. The response I got from councilman at the time was, well, there's lines in there, we can't do anything, we have to get approval from the railroad and et cetera, et cetera. So, but if we are in charge of that area and the railroad does not care what happens to that area, then we should be able to cement that area and just be done.
Yeah, I'd have to look into that. There is a difference on regulating kind of temporary signage during electioneering and putting permanent sidewalks. So I do think any kind of true improvements that are being done to that, we would have to get a sign off for. I will say, to be completely transparent, in the future, as everybody knows, there is a lack of continuation of sidewalk over the railroad tracks that connect
Right.
both sides. I absolutely think that's something that the city is working towards and
Getting
has
tech
future
stock to sign
plans
off on it.
to have. That has a whole bunch to do with quiet zones and different things that would absolutely need UP sign off for that. But I do think ultimately there's plans to extend that sidewalk and do some additional improvements on both sides of the property there.
Right. Because I think if we could just cement the area in front of the sign, we could say we need that as access to the sign to be able to put the open and closed banner on it. And so it provides us a safe and
But you're talking about like cement from here.
where the
to
pink
here.
area is, at least
Oh,
where
where the
the
pink-
blue
Just where
area
the-
is and past our sign in the pink area.
Okay.
And whether the whole area in the pink, but at least half of it where our sign is and maybe just up to that manhole cover, if that could be cemented from there back to the walkway as a means to get to our sign and change our open and closed banner on it, then that would alleviate a lot of the problem because there would be no signs in front of our sign. They
see what
couldn't
you're
put them there. So, I mean, if that would help, then I would be willing to accept that as a way to at least curb the enthusiasm for signs right in front of our sign.
I think that could be phase two, kind of this discussion, kind of future improvements. But let me make sure I get, so blue box, absolutely zero signs in the blue box.
I would hope, yes.
We would recommend at this point.
Yes.
Pink box, the short yard signs.
Yes,
Okay. Thanks.
yes. And then nothing in the planter box.
Nothing in the planter box in the
Right.
front. Yep.
Because we are gonna replant that very soon with the
I think she wants to
garden
speak.
club.
Can we also ask the city to, if they go in and put signs in the flower bed and destroy it, that whoever owns that sign, they get charged a fee for destroying property? Is that
I mean,
something?
yeah, I'll follow up on kind of, I'm just gonna be honest, it's very hard to do that.
Oh yeah, we're putting a lot of work on you to do this.
No, I
so
mean, I can follow
I'm
up
sorry.
on kind of code enforcement, but it's really hard to do that. I didn't do that. Someone else did that. I didn't step on that plant. Someone else, like, it's just, but I am hoping if you limit people from putting anything potentially in those flower boxes, maybe that's the ability to say, well, yeah, I mean, you're the only one with a sign in there because they're not allowed. You know, we've never had any written guidelines before. I'm hoping that this will help with that, and then we can build from there, proceed with different phases and work off of that too. But I appreciate that you guys are open and understanding to really the visibility of this site, you know, the feasibility of this polling location and everything else. So yes, so I think we can follow up on some of that too.
So if we can't charge a fine for destroying with these signs, then after it's published, you can't put signs here and they do, can we simply remove them?
I think, yes, I mean, maybe there's a way that we can do that and work on removing them and saving them in a secure location and giving them, I'm making this up, but, 3 days to collect, or pick up or something. So I think there's some opportunities to do that as well.
Maybe, say if you want to pick up your sign, give us $5 or charge a nominal fee that will go to replacing what they've destroyed. Because if we have to spend $200+ per year to replant flowers and they destroy the undergrowth so that they don't come back, is there some way we could figure out, to be fair, how to collect that back? Like maybe ask them, hey, we've removed your sign because you weren't supposed to.
That'd probably be another thing that,
Here's a fee.
another thing that we'll have to look back on for like phase 2 of the discussion.
I would be careful of taking signs down.
You're right.
Because
There's a
there is
whole nother
protection for
There's a
thing
whole
on
nother
that.
thing with
Yep.
that. It's
Yeah,
like-
because then you're gonna be accused of
Tampering.
tampering, yeah,
Yep.
taking sides and,
Aren't they tampering first? I don't know.
Well, the signs are
Well-
protected under free speech. Our sign is more of a sort of a business
Okay.
front.
But free speech doesn't dictate that you can just place your message anywhere. It
Yes.
means you personally can spread your message, but it doesn't dictate.
that's
that
100% correct. However,
Right.
in the real world.
I understand that.
It has
Right.
been
You're gonna,
Yeah.
the city's gonna
ruled
be
on.
accused
Right.
of,
But if we figured out a way, like I say, if cement's our answer, then I think we just make it so they can't put the sign there, and then we're just eliminating the whole problem.
It would also help because of the way to get access to that open and close part of that sign. We had local elections last year.
Yeah.
We had to jump over a lot of them to
couldn't
try
hardly
to
get-
not hit any of
Oh, I
them
see.
down, just
Sign.
trying to get there.
Yeah,
Yep.
because there is an open and closed on that sign, and then you couldn't see it, and we couldn't hardly get to it. We already put a sign on the back fence, heading towards the railroad tracks there, that is now superfluous, you can't even see it. If we put it up there, you might notice it, but you couldn't see it behind all the
Oh,
election
this is back when
signs.
they didn't have the sign.
And the only other thing I can think of is to take our big sign and move it right up to the sidewalk.
Go to a view on 150 or on
And
Center
then
Street.
right
sorry.
behind that bench, but up
See
to
if
the
they'll show up there.
sidewalk
This is
so nobody can
2019.
put anything in front of it. That would be another suggestion.
Oh, yeah, this is not too bad.
But
Yeah.
So this is an old,
there's an old
It is
picture before the
2019.
sign was up.
that's funny.
This is probably during a runoff.
And
It's
I
November.
could live with this many signs, this would be okay,
Oh,
but
yeah.
unfortunately,
So these are the signs I was talking about that
Right.
could be in front of the signs.
that's what should
and
be in
then-
front.
Yep.
And if they didn't go any further than where our sign is, which is about half the bench, or 3/4 of the bench back towards the building. See, when you get so close to the building like the one sign is,
Yeah.
and then the other sign right next to it, it kind of infers that the building has something to do with this. And I kind of don't like that
Yeah.
look.
Yep.
So the blue square is just merely aesthetics to keep us from seeming to be involved in the election in any way.
Okay.
And then the pink box is more protecting us so that we have access to our sign and the people have access to know we have a sign and whether we're open or not.
Okay.
So that's really the two boxes. And then the planter bed, protecting our investment in the plants that we planted. We're trying to get all native plants and plants that should be in the area and place those in there. And some of those are delicate, some aren't. But if you go in with signs and trample everything, then it's all for naught anyway.
What about, instead of the finding and getting into all that sort of thing, when the plants aren't grown, like during the winter season, could we purchase a protective cover where you couldn't put a sign in there, but the whole flower bed is just kind of covered until they start
Well,
growing?
unfortunately, some of those plants do grow through the winter. My idea has always have been to make a plywood train something and put that on the edge of the front edge of that side, cement, and attach it through the very front next to the cement and raise it up 3 feet and then just eliminate the potential for signs to be there that way by blocking it ourselves with something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's always that aspect too, but I kind of hate to do that because sometimes the sun is there and I don't know, the wind has knocked things over before and ripped some of those signs completely out at times. So, I don't know how that would work, but that's another thing I've thought about doing, is just buying some plywood, carving it into a train and putting the train up every election.
Yeah,
In
I'm gonna
front.
say no signs on the railing or whatever too.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
So no signs on the flower bed, no signs attached to the railings.
No-
Has that
no
been issues
signs.
before?
Attached or touching the building in
Yep.
any way either. We
Yep.
had a candidate last time who ended up moving his signs out of the planter box, but then he went and put them right up against the building on the edge between Center Street and the building, right up on that building side. And I was moving them out from under the eave, and he got a little testy, "Oh, you can't move those signs." I said, "I'm just moving them out from the building edge.
Yep.
They're still here in the location, they just come out 2 feet."
Okay.
And then I explained to him why, that I didn't want them within the building boundaries, and he agreed to it and saw the logic there and said, great, and was very cooperative in moving the rest of his signs out. And then people were very nice last time and removed their signs from the garden. But I have a feeling this time is not like that, and I know in November it is not going to be like that. I can guarantee. So, I mean, we may have a train out there in November if we have to. I hate to do that too, because that takes away, but at least it would be more appropriate than a bunch of election signs.
So my yellow box is a little bit off, but we're
Yeah.
okay with signs being located here. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I say, maybe another couple of feet away from the building and the fence, but yeah, that general area is fine,
Okay.
yeah.
The cement issue really solves a lot
A lot
of,
of the issue.
because then no one can claim that anyone's taking anybody's side. I mean,
Right.
it's just, the cement prevents all parties from putting a sign.
In the pink and blue. Yep.
And yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's aesthetically, it's not bad for the city or bad for the design. It adds an
It's a
extra buffer
continuation
there.
of kind
Yeah,
of the sidewalk.
of
Yep.
the
No, I
sidewalk
see where
in
you're
front of
coming
the
from.
depot. So it kind of looks like it fits. And it certainly gives us then better access in the winter and other icy times and wet times in the spring to the sign without having to go in the tall grass. Sometimes the grass is a little taller there and you get a little soaked feet while you're trying to get to the open sign.
Okay, I'm just talking out loud. I'm just spitballing with you guys. Would you be okay with moving the sign closer to the sidewalk?
If that's what it takes, if we can
Okay.
get it right up to the sidewalk and
Okay.
nobody can put a sign in front of our sign. If we leave even 2 inches, they're gonna drive a T-post in front of it. So
But
we
you
have to
you
get
would
it.
you would be okay with that? Like
Yeah.
the sign. Sorry, I've drawn
wouldn't-
over it now, but
Because
kind
they
of like
will
right
take
here.
every inch. We did have that last year where we had signs right up against the depot, like it was hitting the wall
Yeah.
close.
Yep. So I think,
So-
yep, we can talk about that. No signs attached, affixed, or leaning on the
Right.
property. But you're not opposed to moving said permanent sign
No,
closer to the sidewalk,
right up to the sidewalk,
if that works
if that
and it
works.
meets rules and regulations. So we'd have to look at that. Okay,
right.
thanks. Anything else?
As far as that, I think that covers it. Like I say, I'm not opposed to them moving the signs in the planter box to the park. That certainly is still,
Absolutely, and
Public
I'll do
area,
a
and they can do
yellow,
whatever
I'll
they
do a
want
yellow
there.
box kind of over here too.
right. Now, thus leaving us a path to the caboose though, without signs. So we might need to have the yellow box come out to the little cart in kind of an odd way from the planter box, kind of back to
Boy,
the
they start
cart.
like right here,
And,
don't they?
Yeah, they start right at the corner, and then head away from the depot. So,
Yeah, I feel like they,
right. See, like where they are now is fine.
yep,
We just so long as we can go down those steps and to the caboose
Yep.
and that cart without having to trip over
I
signs,
see what you're saying.
we
Yep,
should be fine.
So if they're starting planter box back, that should
Yeah,
probably be okay.
That should be fine.
Okay.
I mean,
Quick
There's
question,
ways
so
in-
if we move the depot sign up to the sidewalk, can we still kind of ask them to not put the larger signs so it butts up, so we have a big political sign on top of our
right,
sign?
or next to our sign.
Yeah, we would still need some room in the back. even if we moved it up to the butt of the sidewalk. Otherwise, they're gonna.
Between the building and the,
Well, that too.
Right behind the sign, because
Yeah,
if
we would want to do something from the sign to the building at an angle, I think.
yeah, like blue and pink.
It would be more of a triangle thing would get
Yes,
away.
yep.
And then we would need something on the Center Street side of the sign just to keep things a foot or 3 feet away, 4 feet away to start, so that we don't have their sign butted right up to our sign,
Yep,
I think is what you're kind of saying, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because if we move our sign to the sidewalk, then they're gonna get a taller sign, and it's like,
right there anyway,
then it looks like
yeah,
whomever puts that sign there, we're supporting whomever that is. And
kind of, yeah.
so I definitely got some good feedback. I think I can come up with some options, honestly, that we can discuss and get some answers on some of this other stuff. So I can get an answer on, honestly, whether or not there's even any feasibility of moving that sign, you know, and if we did, you know, kind of an approach for that, and then some guidelines on this too. So thank you.
Yeah, okay.
And if you think of anything else in the meantime, let me know.
All right. Sort of says that's our whole agenda.
That
apparently.
is.
Meeting
Does anyone have anything else they wish to discuss or bring up at this time that we haven't put on the agenda?
What's the Wi-Fi situation looking like? 'Cause
I need to follow up on that. The tree was trimmed, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I need to follow up
And
on
that's
that.
looking better, but
Thank
I
you.
guess we got news on the second tree that it is actually
It's sick.
teetering on the verge of death, but are they trying to save it somehow, or are we just keeping it there until it finally does croak?
Let me follow up on that. I do think, I think,
If there's some way to save it, it'd be great, but if there isn't, it might behoove us to remove it now before it causes, a limb falls and does something bad.
actually,
And we could
yes, I think
replace
we
it.
want it to be safe. There is something to be said ecologically for, you know, plants living their life cycle and going through the whole, you know.
Right, but not when it's
Not
impinging on
unsafe.
human safety.
Yes,
And we can
absolutely.
replace that tree.
Yep.
It's not a variety that's unknown or hard to get or anything like that. We
And
have
I do
millions
think,
of them in
as I
Texas.
mentioned before, I just don't have an update yet. We're absolutely gonna be coming back. The city does have plans to talk about some of the green belts, which are kind of the adjacent to the train depot property, and some plans associated with that. And we absolutely want your feedback. So that will be a future agenda item, as we're kind of discussing those. So, I'm kind of excited about that project, bringing that to you guys as well. And then we need to follow up on the interior
Of the caboose.
of the caboose. So I'll check on the Wi-Fi and the caboose and the tree.
So
Sorry.
did they finally get a contractor to,
I think he's done some bids. We probably need to get a couple more. We're gonna touch base with our facilities.
okay, yeah, if you could do that, that
Yep.
would be wonderful. Find out
Absolutely.
what progress is on that. We would love to have that open by December. Or at least
Yes.
not go through another winter cycle with the one side needing repair to begin with, so.
Yep.
Any little chink in that armor is just gonna be worse.
Absolutely.
So, other than that, yes, the Wi-Fi, if we could get that a little stronger, it would be nice. It works sometimes, but not all the time.
And it's mainly just to get that Roku working so people can have their subtitles.
Yeah, we have films we show
Yeah.
about, that the Historical Commission has made over the years and of different people and events in the county, and one of them's is the founding of Kyle that we have running.
I did talk to Marco
so-
about that. I think it's like a booster issue on it, so we'll follow up.
We have one booster, but if we need 5, 6, or whatever it is to make it work, that would be wonderful.
Perfect.
And anything else, can anybody think of anything else they have any comments on or concerns?
I don't think there's anything that's pressing that we discussed before. I don't think there's anything else.
Okay.
No.
We haven't had any raccoons, and I haven't seen any termites, any new termite stuff, so hopefully that's under control. But we should be watching for that as spring comes. And make sure none of those critters move in. All right. Well, if that's the case and no one has any other business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Second.
And Bob seconds. All right, I will call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you so much. I don't think in March, probably not, probably April, I think. Thank you so much.